Hi everyone, it's me, and today let's train 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and a 10-kilometer run every single day together for 2 years. One Punch Man reference.
If 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and a 10-kilometer run every day allows you to destroy the moon in a single punch, I wonder what like 10 a day would do. I mean, I don't want to push myself too hard, you know?
Oh, my pet, you can do it. So important. Wait, I remember this. Back when they were doing Dr. Stone Film Theory, they actually created an entire anime experience for it. Now they're using it for film theory. Awesome! This is Backpack with the red color jacket. You will notice the shirt is the Game Theory. Game Theory on a film theory episode. It's a pretty good intro. Good job, Matt. Good job, the team.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory. Hi. Hi.
Show that can knock out any franchise with just a single episode.
Soka.
Okay.
Today we're hopping back into the wonderful world of anime to revisit One Punch Man. For those of you who don't remember, 3 years ago we actually pitted his unstoppable punch against Captain America's unbreakable vibranium shield to see who could win. But I never quite felt like we gave the show itself its due. From armored gorillas to seaweed people, this show is full of absurd powers and awesome moments that we could look at. But of course, nothing compares to the incredible strength coming from everyone's favorite C-ranked hero, Saitama. I mean, let's be honest, who wouldn't want to walk around with the power to level planets at the end of your arm? Well, that power can now be yours in your phone. Thanks to our sponsor for today's episode, One Punch Man the Strongest, a new turn-based RPG available now for iOS and Android. The game's officially licensed and supervised by the people who know One Punch Man the best, recreating all the key events from the first season of the anime. And not just recreating, mixing in actual scenes from the show. It's a really cool visual style that feels unique to the game, blending the video game world with the anime world. Along the way, you'll have the chance to recruit over 60 fan-favorite heroes and villains ranging from Carnage Kabuto to
This lost child.
And
This lost child? Oh, come on, that is Tatsumaki, one of the strongest characters.
of course, there's Saitama himself, whose unstoppable punch is entirely in your control, no sit-ups required. Well, maybe some sit-ups required considering you'll have to complete his strict exercise regimen in a minigame mode called Saitama's Quest.
You have to keep doing it, no matter how difficult it gets.
One Punch Man the Strongest is available now, and it's currently in the middle of its launch event, which means that if you go play now, you're gonna get yourself a bunch of goodies. If you want to find out more and be a hero for fun, you can download One Punch Man the Strongest by scanning the QR code that you see on screen or clicking the link in the description. And don't forget to use the promo code TFTOPM for 4 superb vouchers, 30 stamina, 10,000 coins, and 10 XP Soda 2s. But hold on, let me stop shilling here for a moment. Well, in theory, having the power of Saitama in my hands seems awesome. In reality, it probably be more like a curse. And not just because he's able to defeat anyone without breaking a sweat. As I played through the events of One Punch Man the Strongest and remembered all these bits from season 1 of the anime, I realized that Saitama's heroics actually cause a lot of damage. And I do mean a lot. I know the show
Yeah, a lot of damage. Oops.
plays some of these moments for laughs, but when you actually stop and do the calculations, One Punch Man has actually killed millions of people. In fact, it's likely that
maybe more than that. Tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions of people. Sorry, I mean, he destroyed planets on a daily basis. Okay, it's not on a daily basis. It's just that he has the potential.
that he's destroyed the planet multiple times over in his carelessness. In trying to save civilization, he's wound up destroying it multiple times. Don't believe me? Well, hop off that bike of yours for a second, Moomin Rider, cause
Moonman Rider!
Today we're talking about all the times Saitama's quote-unquote help actually killed more people than it saved. In both One Punch Man the anime and the strongest mobile game, one of the first villains we're introduced to is Beefcake, a buff dude bro who's mutated into a giant mass of muscle in an effort to be the strongest man. Obviously though, he's wrong. He's
Oh, sorry.
defeated by Saitama in a single punch, who then gives him this dose of reality.
Having overwhelming strength is pretty boring, actually.
But I'm not interested in the philosophy of it all. I'm interested in the resulting devastation. When Saitama punches Beefcake, he knocks him back onto the city, crushing even more buildings and killing more people. And all he has to say about it is, whoops, it's a perfect showcase of how he doesn't take the consequences of his actions seriously at all, considering that he likely just killed thousands of people. But to know for sure, let's do some math, shall we? First of all, to figure out how many people Beefcake crushed as he fell, we're gonna need to find out how tall and wide Beefcake is. There's lots of ways to do this. The simplest is to take this profile shot from the game and do some quick measurements. We see here that Beefcake is standing next to this group of buildings. Doing some rough comparisons, we can tell that Beefcake is around 6 times the height of the surrounding buildings. But something about that didn't seem big enough, so I decided to go back to the original anime. Now, in the series, the animators play with size and scale a lot, so I decided to go with the biggest scale that I could find evidence for, and it's right here when we see a footprint left behind by Beefcake imprinted into a huge portion of the city. Believe it
Yeah, that's huge.
or not, we can use this to determine his height. A person's height in proportion to the length of their foot is typically 6.1 inch for height for every inch of foot. Now,
On average.
due to the stylized nature of the cityscape's art, it's a bit difficult to count the exact number of city blocks here, so to be safe, we're gonna base our count only on the very large streets that we see cutting through the buildings. Using that, a reasonable count will land us between 5 to 9 blocks, so I'm just gonna split the difference and say that it's 7 city blocks long. An average city block in a large metropolitan area tends to be about 1,066 feet or 325 meters long, meaning that Beefcake's foot here would be an insane 7,464 feet or 2,275 meters long. That is the length of 6 cruise ships or a long airport runway. And again, I recognize how ridiculous that number is, but that's what the show is telling us. So using our 6.1 inch to 1 inch proportion here, that means that Beefcake is an absolute unit, standing at 45,560 feet or 13,877 meters tall.
Just stop for a moment first. I'm thankful that the team behind this video included both feet and meters, so that individuals that use both metric system, that uses both system can understand. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Context, the tallest building in the world, the Burj
Khalifa.
Khalifa, is only 2,717 feet, or 828 meters tall. This puts Beefcake's head firmly in the stratosphere. He is taller than the altitude at which most planes fly. Thankfully, now that we have this number, figuring out how wide Beefcake is super simple thanks to our old trusty friend, pixel measurements. We get ourselves a good shot of Beefcake's entire body here. Using some basic math, we can determine that Beefcake's body has a width of roughly 16,345 feet or 4,982 meters. This is a very, very rough estimate, but that would mean that Beefcake's entire body has an area of roughly 26.7 square miles or 69.1 square kilometers. Now, before we move on to just how destructive Saitama's punch would be here, I want to challenge you to head on down below this video and punch that subscribe button. Go on, I'll just wait here and play through a chapter of One Punch Man, the strongest, real quick. I'm at the chapter with Beefcake, should be one punch, super easy. So, how many people died when Saitama knocked Beefcake over? Well, it would depend on a ton of factors, of course. Did Beefcake fall in a commercial or residential area? What time of day is it? How many people were able to evacuate? It's a lot of factors that we don't really have a way to account for, so we're just gonna use a citywide average to keep the numbers as clean as possible. All of the cities in One Punch Man are original creations with no great one-to-one real-world comparisons. But since One Punch Man is a Japanese series, these cities have Japanese-inspired architecture and are shown to be densely populated. We're gonna use the stats for Tokyo in our calculations.
And if I'm not wrong, it's the most populated city in Japan, right?
Tokyo has a population density of 6,158 people per square kilometer, which means that about 425,518 people would have been crushed to death just because Saitama punched Beefcake and knocked him back into the city.
Well done! Thousands have perished!
You're right, they did, and you certainly were responsible, but some tells me it wasn't in the way that you anticipated. So that is a lot of damage done to the city and its inhabitants because of Saitama's recklessness. But believe it or not, that's the least destructive thing that we're talking about here today. Because a few episodes later, Saitama does another heroic thing by punching a meteor that's about to crash land into a different city. Now, you might
Yep. Oops. Sorry.
be thinking that Saitama saved the city here. He destroyed the meteor before it was able to strike the planet. That's a net win, right? Nope. I'm here to tell you that what Saitama did might have actually been worse than letting the meteor hit. See, this meteor is described in the show as a 9 on the Torino scale.
Elevating from 6 to 9 on the Torino scale.
This is a real system of measurement that looks at an asteroid's diameter and how likely it is to hit Earth. Obviously, a 9 on that scale is gonna be really bad. Just for a frame of reference here, a 10 is like the impact that killed the dinosaurs. Now,
Yep. The dinosaur is like, oh no!
in that previous theory that I mentioned before, we found that Saitama's meteor was closest to the real-world asteroid 101955 Bennu, which has itself a diameter of 1,608 feet, or 490 meters, and an approximate mass of 171 billion pounds, or 78 billion kilograms. This thing is heavier than the entirety of the Great Wall of China. Considering meteors enter Earth's atmosphere at a speed between 20 and 72 kilometers a second, we calculated that the meteor had 202 quintillion joules of energy. Obviously, that is going to be devastating if it touches down, but here's the thing. Saitama's punch doesn't gently stop the meteor or fling it back into outer space, it makes the whole thing explode. See, when the meteor is suddenly stopped, all that energy has to go somewhere. All Saitama did was make it explode up in the air. Even if we assume he's somehow able to dissipate or absorb like half the meteor's energy with his
Which is not quite possible, physics.
punch, that still leaves us with an explosion equivalent to 24 million kilotons of TNT. I tried to get myself an idea of how large a nuclear explosion that would be just so we could visualize it, but when inputting that number into our good old friend Nuke Map, they politely apologized that they didn't calculate nuclear weapons that powerful. In fact, the maximum that they allow in this calculator is a 100,000 kiloton bomb, which would be over 240 times weaker than the explosion from that meteor. Just to get
So think about it. The Star Bomba is weak in comparison. What?
a sense, this is what would happen to Tokyo if a 100,000 kiloton bomb exploded 5,000 feet into the air. Now imagine something that's 240 times worse. Here's the good news. By punching the meteor and causing the explosion up in the air,
Airbursts.
theoretically, Saitama would have caused less damage to the impact area. This is a concept called airburst, a term used in military arms to describe explosives that detonate in the air. It means that the peak energy of the explosion wouldn't be on the ground in the middle of the city, so the absolute worst of that explosion wouldn't be at the heart of downtown.
Yes, if I'm not wrong, it will reduce the overall damage done, but increase the surface area that the damage is going to occur. So technically speaking, if you think about it, he saved the planet by sacrificing the city. Oops, sorry.
Bad news? Well, airbursts are used in military weaponry to cause damage over a wider area. So a greater percentage of the city and its surrounding area are destroyed. And mid-air explosions of meteorites? Yeah, they're no joke.
Yeah, planet or city, planet or city, planet or city. Either ways, it's a lot of people.
Actually happened on Earth before. In June of 1908, a 60-meter meteor exploded in the air above Siberia, causing a shockwave that flattened 80 million trees over an area half the size of Rhode Island. And that was a meteor that basically was a tenth the size of the one that Saitama punches here. So rather than focusing the catastrophic destruction in a single area, Saitama managed to spread a slightly less destructive force to a much wider area, while creating a devastating shockwave in the process. Additionally, when a meteor explodes in atmosphere, pieces of it are still gonna rain down and hit Earth. And sadly, unlike One Punch Man the Strongest, where the pieces from the meteor explosion transform into new characters that you can recruit, it's not nearly as fun when it happens in the real world. Side note, yes, this is a real thing that happens in the game. The meteorite is like a giant interstellar Easter egg with treats inside. Real talk, I love that they incorporated that part of the show into the game. Just a really fun way to handle the character recruitment mechanic. To the anime's credit, this is actually a problem that they've thought of.
If I do happen to take it out, what then? The meteor may break apart and still cause a disaster.
So it's like a planetary disaster or a citywide disaster. You have to choose. Both bien, you have to choose.
I guess that takes care of that.
But here's the thing, the real world destruction here would be far, far worse than what we see in the show. Obviously, it's difficult to math out how many pieces this meteor would break into or how big they'd be, so I'm choosing a number here arbitrarily. Assuming that half the meteor was vaporized by his punch, that still leaves 85 billion pounds of meteor left. If that broke up into pieces that were roughly the size of a refrigerator, that would leave over 2 million rocks raining down onto the Earth. Doing some back-of-the-napkin math here, each would weigh nearly 18,000 kilograms and possess a kinetic energy output equivalent to 11 kilotons of TNT. The atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima, it had a yield of 15 kilotons of TNT. So at least the rocks wouldn't be as bad as that particular atomic bomb, but you know, now there's 2 million of them all hitting the area at the same time. Kinda makes you wish that all the meteor fragments really were just characters like Bang and Boros like they are in One Punch Man the Strongest, huh? And yet some
I just love it that MatPat included the games again and again and again.
Somehow, that still isn't the worst thing that Saitama's ever done. No, that honor comes at the very end of the season. See, during the final battle of Season 1, the alien invader Boros knocks Saitama to the moon. Of course, Saitama's completely unfazed and jumps back to Earth, with the power of his jump creating a massive shockwave on the lunar surface.
Which, fun fact, if I'm not wrong, that's where this individual, this entity called God exists. Reside there. And to my knowledge, God doesn't seem like a very good person in the character, in the story. So, you know, you sort of freed God. So yeah, not the wisest decision.
Why is that a big deal? Well,
big deal.
This single action just doomed all life on Earth. Let me explain.
Yeah, God doesn't like it.
Since we just talked about meteor impacts, I thought it might be fun to use the crater Saitama left behind on the moon to calculate his energy. See, this thing is huge, big enough that it can be seen from Earth. We actually get a great look at how massive it is in this piece of artwork from the One Punch Man manga, which allows us to measure its exact width. The diameter of the moon is 2,150.
See. That's the individual.
Great look at how massive it is in this piece.
That's the individual, the entity called God.
Of artwork from the One Punch Man manga, which allows us to measure its exact width. The diameter of the moon is 2,159 miles, or 3,475 kilometers, and using pixel measurements, we can determine that the crater is a gargantuan 1,344 miles, or 2,163 kilometers wide. That is just under the distance from Los Angeles, California to Dallas, Texas. In other words, that single crater is about half the width of the United States. So, with all that information in hand, we can now use this meteor impact calculator to determine the energy of Saitama's jump. And the answer is this, 3.89 times 10 to the 26 joules of energy. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell what that means.
I can understand, but let's explain. Thank you so much, MatPat. Thank you. Oh, side note, I'm just glad that there's so much mathematics involved, so much numbers involved, to show that MatPat truly wants to deliver a proper video, a well-scripted video about One Punch Man. OP Man!
That's 26.
Get it. OP means overpowered. Overpowered, man. That means the person is way overpowered.
Zeros, so you know, it's probably gonna be really powerful stuff. Nearly 400 septillion joules of energy, which sounds impressive, but is also like, you know, it's confusing. Like, what does that actually translate to? Well, first, it's certainly bigger than the impact that killed the dinosaurs, so we certainly have that going for it. My next thought was that maybe it'd be enough to outright destroy the moon, but nope, not quite. To do that, you'd need to add 3 more zeros, 1.2 times 10 to the 29th joules. But I suspect Saitama's leap back to Earth had enough enough power in it to do something equally bad. Deorbit the entire thing. Knock the moon out of its gravitational relationship with Earth, swiping left on us as it pieces out into the rest of the solar system. Moving a celestial body as big as the moon would obviously be a super complicated math problem. Thankfully, theoretical physicist Jack Fraser Govil already did the math for us. Now,
So thank you so much, Jack. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
navigating those messy equations to find that it would take approximately 2.5 octillion joules to completely deorbit the moon, just slightly more than what Saitama's jump produces, but not so fast. That's talking about the whole moon. When Saitama jumped, he also atomized a huge chunk of what he was standing on. It's difficult to gauge just how much debris was thrown from the lunar surface by Saitama's jump, but I suspect it was enough to lower the moon's mass and set it free from its marriage to the Earth. But even if it wasn't completely deorbited, the enormous amount of energy from Saitama's jump would still push the moon a significant distance further away from the planet. So what? Why would that be a problem? Well, loyal theorists,
Big problem. If the distance between the moon and the Earth is slightly more or slightly less, a lot of things may change. For example, we will miss solar eclipse. Lunar eclipse or solar, but you get the point. Eclipse is just GG. Like total eclipse is just GG. We cannot see that anymore.
there would be a lot of changes to the way that our planet functions. For example, the days would get slightly longer because the moon's gravity partially affects the speed of the Earth's spin. The tilt of the Earth would also change, as it's the pull of the moon that helps keep the planet tilted at 23.5 degrees. Losing this tilt would change the seasons, making them more unpredictable and more extreme. But the big one, the huge change that affects everything, tides. Losing the moon, or even pushing it further away from the Earth, would absolutely devastate tidal systems all around the world. See, the tides that you see in the ocean are directed by the gravitational pull that the moon has on Earth. It's literally pulling the water to follow it as it orbits the planet. The further the moon gets, the weaker the pull and the lower the tides. If they
MatPat makes a very good point. The further the moon is, the weaker the pull of the tides. And the weaker the pull of the tides, the more catastrophic stuff will happen to our regular life. So, yeah.
weaken enough or disappear entirely, that means that there would be no tides to churn up material in the oceans, which allows for coastal ecosystems to thrive. Animals like crabs, mussels, starfish, and snails would be decimated by this, as would any creature that relies on them for their source of food. And of course, anything that relies on those animals would then suffer as well. But making water go up and down isn't the only thing that the tides control. They
What's it? The circle of life, and it ruins also. Ruins.
also control worldwide currents of water that span entire oceans. This helps to stabilize Earth's climate, distributing warmer waters around the globe. Without the warm water driven by the tides, European cities would suffer much colder climates than we see today. The same could be said for Eastern Asian countries like Japan and China, who rely on the Kuroshio current to bring warm equatorial waters north. Without the moon, these tidal currents would disappear, devastating entire continents. When combined with the more extreme seasons from the change in Earth's tilt, kiss humanity goodbye. In short, civilization as we know it would come to an end. Turns out that the Hero Association was always focused on the wrong problem. Saitama is the real force of destruction they should have been focused on stopping. So,
Yep. On the later end, he also time traveled. He destroyed, if I'm not wrong, Jupiter's moon, right? Yeah, so time traveling thing is possible. Wait, dimension hopping is also possible, if I'm not wrong.
considering that, maybe it's best that we do keep Saitama's powerful punch limited to a mobile device. Which, hey, thanks again to One Punch Man the Strongest for sponsoring today's video. What better way to revisit Saitama destroying the lives of millions throughout Season 1? Remember, if you want to check out this new turn-based RPG, you can download it on iOS and Android right now. Plus, you can support the channel by either scanning the QR code on screen or using my download link in the description below. And don't forget to use my promo code TFTOPM so you can fight alongside Saitama and be a hero for fun. For real, if you have any interest in trying out this game, you don't want to miss out all the free goodies that you get during this launch event. Anyway, if you'll excuse me, I have to go get my 100 squats in. In the meantime, remember, it's all just a theory. A film theory. And cut.
Well, the moon just further and further and further and further and further and further. I just love it. Saitama just dun 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 dun. Well, anyways, I hope you find this video quite interesting to watch. Very unique and creative, and I just love the mathematics involved. Thank you so much to MatPat and the team behind this video for working so hard into this into the making of this video. And yeah, I'll see the meme at the back. The meme.
Go get my 100 squats in. In the meantime,
When you turn your head too far and the Snapchat filter disappears. It's like this. Then from here, from here become like. I'm sorry. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. If you do like this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and comment down below if you have any share of us. Down below. Don't forget to follow my channel. I hope to see you on my next video. But hey, that's just a theory, a film theory, and cut. Thank you. And hope to see you in my next video. Bye.